Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. Hey, lovers of small businesses and good stories in general. Welcome to episode 97 of Small Business War Stories. And today's a really cool episode. It's a little bit different. I sit down with Megan, Willin and Chelsea Scharbach of Double Barrel Design. And what's interesting about this is the stage of business that they're at. So they have been doing this project called Double Barrel Design, which is a combination of architectural design and also print design, which is each one of their expertises, and doing consulting things on the side with their other jobs. And they are now just about to take that big leap to really be out on their own. And this is something that comes up a lot in the program, and it's when is the right time for you to take that leap. It's a terrifying leap. A lot of people end up not really knowing how to do it, when to do it. And it's a very human thing. And but the reality is that every business that you see out there, when you go to your coffee shop, when you go to, or any service provider you use, at some point, the owner or principal of that company decided to take that leap. So we explore what that means for Megan and Chelsea. And yeah, they're awesome designer women here in Austin. This episode is brought to you by Proven.com. That's a company I started. It is a small business hiring tool. So if you need to hire for your company, for your small business, go check it out right now. Go to Proven.com. We also have a great resource section at blog.proven.com with all kinds of resources for small businesses, including the Small Business War Stories podcast. And we have all the archive there of all the episode. And again, this is episode 97. We are coming up on our 100th episode, not including all the flash episodes we've done in between. And that's going to be coming up January 2nd. And it's going to be a really special one. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode with a Double Barrel Design in Austin, Texas. And we are live here in beautiful Austin, Texas. And I have the pleasure and honor to sit down today with Chelsea Scharbach and Megan Willin, principals of Double Barrel Design. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good to have you guys here. And I know both of you from Atomic Athlete. You were both beastly athletes there who are very strong and inspirational. Actually, no, I'm not kidding. Actually, when I showed up I've been there for a little bit under a year, and you're both very impressive in terms. And I was like, man, like this is you got to show up and do work around here. So it's it's really awesome, and I've seen you guys working there. Thanks. And Atomic was also on the podcast. So
yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah, did with Todd. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
So you guys have a design shop here in Austin. How did you first come together? How did you first decide to get started on this?
You want to tell that story?
Sure. So Chelsea and I met about 4 years ago. A friend initially introduced us, and I actually needed a ride to a retreat that we were both going to. So Chelsea picked me up, and I just remember being super nervous because I had a lunchbox full of meals that I had prepped. But luckily...
Well, and so the best part of it is I had reluctantly said no because I'm like pretty introverted and was like, I do not want to ride in the car for an hour with this girl I don't know.
Yeah.
And so Megan walked out with this big cooler of food, and I was like, okay, we're going to be friends.
Freak.
Yeah.
So we met that way, and then, of course, we became fast friends on the car ride up there.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I think the next year you needed help with the retreat, like decorations and stuff, and so we had some experience there working together. Skip forward about 2 years, I was contracted to do a mural in a local gym here, and I noticed that they needed some merchandising space developed, and that's kind of beyond my skill set.
And you have a graphic design background?
Correct. So mainly 2D, branding specifically, but definitely with application in space. So we call that environmental graphic design. Okay. And so anyway, I noticed they needed some merchandising development there, and so I decided to reach out to Chelsea because I knew she was an architect and she knew CAD, so of course she wanted to help, and we dove headfirst into that project.
Yeah.
So that's how the whole, because you guys have a really interesting intersection of sort of like the graphic design with architectural design.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it all came together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have
That's
a
right,
design and 3D design.
Yeah.
So you guys have like the 2D, 3D
Yeah.
partnership going on.
Trying to merge that.
We're the full
Yeah.
package, man.
Boom, done. Love it. So, what does that mean? So, I mean, so you, we'll get into that in a second here. What does it mean to put those 2D and 3D thing together? Because that's really an interesting concept. But you were doing something else.
Yeah, so I was at a firm at the time, just regular architecture firm, and Megan basically just brought me in. We went and looked at the space, and there were some layout issues that they had kind of with circulation that we saw needs for improvement. And
Yeah, just the flow. The space was super tight, and they needed some help with the flow of traffic.
Yeah.
So,
So we started working on that, and my husband, who is a lawyer, instantly was like, you guys can't do this. You have to write up a contract, and you need to like form a business. And we're like, this is one project, seriously? And so really from that,
he threatened us
Yeah.
with starting an LLC.
Yeah, he gave us
called-
a deadline. He was like, if
What
you
did he
don't
call
if
it?
you don't register something by this date, I'm going to start it for you, and I'm going to call it Eagle's Wings.
With a Z.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Which is kind of a cool name, right?
Yeah. Well, with an S maybe.
So he gave us a deadline, and I was freaking out, of course. So what did I do? I made a Venn diagram, and basically was like, okay, how are we alike? You know, where do we cross?
Yeah.
And so came up with this list of things that like we both were similar in and
Yeah.
different in, being our crafts and just personality wise.
Yeah.
And then
It
we
was so funny. She sent me this like picture of her sketchbook in the car of like all the things we have in common, and it was like
Wow.
blondes like to work out,
Wow,
like to
there you
build
go.
things.
like gun have big guns.
Big guns.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Know how to use tools.
Was this a graphic list? Were there like actual pictures of the guns, or was it like
No,
you
it was
know,
just like
okay.
That came later.
Yeah. So anyway, we landed on the name Double Barrel Design.
Yeah.
Barrels being our guns, our arms,
Boom.
right? Yeah. So
Of course.
Yeah.
so we definitely have a. I guess we want to present the impression that we're definitely. We're strong, and then we can take on things. We have this framework of, branding all the way throughout into the space. We can carry the whole project through, and so that name translates in throughout kind of the mission of our business and like what we believe in as a brand. So.
That's awesome. Okay, so give me an example of the types of projects that you guys work in where you combine this kind of 2D and 3D design, because it's a really cool concept.
Well, with we started really with more artistic stuff, I think, and kind of starting by looking at someone's branding and how to apply it to the space. Kind of what Megan was talking about earlier with environmental graphics, and
What does environmental graphics mean?
So things that are on the wall. If you walk into a space and you see like a wallpaper or a texture that kind of ties in with the logo, or it has the same color palette or the same line quality as the rest of the space, or like printed material that you see in the space, you would consider that environmental graphic design. Or like a billboard. If you see like a billboard, that's just like a really common, easy example.
Okay.
You would consider that
Got it.
environmental
Okay,
graphic
got
design.
it. Okay, sorry, I just didn't
Yeah.
understand what
Yeah.
that meant,
Yeah,
so I
totally.
wanted to make sure.
And then I think taking it a step further, there would be, like for that first project we worked on, there were some retail displays that we came up with that incorporated the same look, and
Okay.
the same vocabulary.
Yep.
And I don't know, now we've kind of transitioned into working into more interiors, sort
Okay.
of traditional architectural interiors.
So give me an example. Like, put me in your project. What is a specific example? What did you do?
So currently we're working on an Airbnb, and we would love to see that either scaled and like, have, either multiple Airbnbs that kind of have the same feel. And so how that would translate aesthetically would be, you walk into the space, it has a certain kind of couch, a certain kind of poster, a certain kind of color. It has a definite feel. And then you move in throughout the space and you see like a guest book that you sign into, and it has a certain feel that matches. And then you see like the guidebook for the hotel that tells you all about Austin. And then the restaurants that we've chosen have picked match the feel of the space. And then you see products that are left behind for guests to take and share, and those feel like the same space. So it's a lot about the experience and making sure that the guest or the customer that are walking into these commercial spaces are having a very cohesive experience, from the social media posts that they discovered the brand or the hotel or the storefront in, all the way through walking into the space, having the interaction with the customer service representative, their outfit, like, so it's very much a full experience.
It's about creating something just beyond a look. It's
absolutely.
Everything else. So what's your process? So let's say somebody commissions you to do something like this. What comes first? What happens?
Well, I think both of us have similar approaches to the design process, and a lot of times a client would go to a graphic designer or an architect, but not both at the same time. And the client is typically responsible for communicating between the two. And so our process, we work a lot back and forth, where we come up with kind of a concept, a direction, and we both kind of play off of each other, working on our individual things, working on things together.
Okay. So, I mean, bring me into that process. So specifically what happens? So you sit down, and let's say let's use that Airbnb you're talking about as an example. So you were first, what's the theme of this Airbnb? Like, what's this sort of feel about it? Like, how would you describe it?
I would say that it's masculine.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of like vintage vibes, but it is a little cleaner than like some of the typical stuff you see in that space. I'm trying to think of like, I know in Austin there's like some good, like Stag would be kind of an example, but it's a little bit cleaned up version of that look.
Got it.
I don't know if you have like a better.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that give it its character would be the textures, the color palettes, the different materials that we're using in the space. And so it definitely has like the vintage feel, but it's also like more streamlined, more like Scandinavian feeling, I guess. I feel like that word's overused, but
got it.
It's
it's like vintage store meets IKEA. Well, you don't want to use the word IKEA.
Yeah, that's a little cheap.
Yeah, sorry.
There may or may not be IKEA things in the.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
So,
but that's more of a sleek, clean line ethic as opposed to more minimalistic.
Yeah.
Okay, so for that particular one, how did you come together and what did you do?
So we started by creating a few different, really just image boards to convey to the client, like, hey, this is a look we think fits your space and what we think his personality was, and we wanted to kind of play out. And then he basically said, that looks good.
And we're like, great.
Okay.
And so from there we created, like, I went and measured the space and create a finish plan where we list out all of the finishes and rearranged the kitchen, redid the bathroom, started pulling ideas for furnishings and artwork and that kind of stuff. And so it really just starts big and then it gets down into the details.
Right. That was kind of our jump off point. When the client signs off on the concept and lights the direction, Chelsea kind of moves into analyzing the space and figuring out what needs to be reworked there. And then I move into the visual spot. Like, okay, so what do we want to bring in branding-wise into the space? Okay. What do we want to name it? How do we want to make this place iconic? How can we make it real original? And so then that's kind of how we both work in that. And then, like we mentioned earlier, definitely work back and forth with finding ways to speak into each other's crafts and give opinions, because we definitely have similar styles, even though they're expressed in two different worlds. Yeah. So we work back and forth in unison throughout the project.
Okay, cool. So, for example, with this particular, how does the 2D design, I mean, beyond the naming and all that, how did that come into play in this project?
So we've made some custom artwork for this space. Okay. I know a huge thing with interior design, I guess, would be bringing in specific imagery that you want to convey a certain feeling, so on and so forth. So we took the liberty to go ahead and come up with specific imagery for the space that gave it a personality, also felt welcoming and Austin-y, but not too like cliche Austin. So that was another, opportunity, I guess, to bring in character and personality and a little bit more of a custom feel. So through artwork, and then we also, like I mentioned earlier with the guest book, we have like a graphic front for the guest book, and then throughout we've chosen spaces for the guests to potentially like travel to and try out. So it's kind of like the house list or the house pick list.
Okay.
And then we also are. What else we were gonna do?
Well, like the wallpapers.
Oh yeah, we've designed and developed custom wallpaper that we're gonna be painting as accent walls in the bedroom. So
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Custom wallpaper. That sounds hard.
No.
Is it?
We're pretty much pros at stenciling stuff.
Got it. That's awesome. So how long have you guys been working together? From the first time that your husband threatened that you had to create a company.
About 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years. Yeah. And how has the kind of project you're working on and your process evolved in that time?
We've gotten way faster. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I think part of that is because we understand how the other works, and I think we have a lot better feel for what the other likes, and so we can kind of meet in that middle space. But
what happens when you disagree?
Fight.
Yeah.
We arm wrestle.
And Megan always wins.
Yeah. We typically agree like 90% of the time, but it's that 10%.
And I think, well, and like also I think we are both pretty good at deferring to one another when it comes to like, if it's something graphic and I disagree, like that's Megan's realm, so I'm just going to trust her. And I think Megan does the same for me.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And honestly, like it's kind of like being married. There's some there's some battles you don't want to fight. You know, it's just like if it's something like Chelsea feels like this color is more appropriate in the space, then again, that's her realm. I'm going to trust her, and it's not really something that I want to argue over. It's so minute on the grander scale of the project. It's it's not going to make
just
or break it.
Fights.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
makes sense. And then also, I mean, I think there's a lot of power in recognizing that we all have blind spots or areas where we can be better, and then surrounding yourself with people that help you be better.
Right? Yeah. Well, and that's like I think the fun part of working together is like if you're doing this kind of thing on your own, it's hard not to second guess yourself. And then also sometimes you just get to a roadblock where you kind of don't know what to do. And it's nice because I feel like we play off each other well, where if I don't know something or if we can't decide on something, we just like take turns.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Or if you're indecisive, like you come to like a Y in the road and it's like, okay, should I go this direction or that?
Yeah.
And you're getting to the point where it's like,
Well, Yogi Berra said, if you come to a fork in the road, you take it.
Or you ask your business partner who you trust.
Exactly.
Or she takes it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So where do you want to take this? So what do you want to do with it? And actually before we go into that, I'd love to hear about how you're currently getting your customers, your clients. So you did the space at Atomic, right? Mm-hmm. Atomic Athlete with the mountains, and then there's Mountain and Bear, and then there's like the actual space,
the bar,
and the couches, which used to be where the jiu-jitsu mat is now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what was that your first big project together, or is that no, you've done other ones before?
Yeah.
Okay. But that was what, like a couple years ago that happened?
Yeah, like year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Years, yeah.
Okay. And so I mean, you obviously, they found you because you work out there, but how do other customers find you, and what's your strategy to make sure that you have a constant flow of work?
It's honestly been a word of mouth, solely word of mouth. We do have an online presence. We have a website and we have an Instagram, but mainly it's just been through friends who either tell their other friend about us and they email us or reach out via Instagram.
Yeah. Or like people we train with at Atomic. There's the Airbnb is a guy from Atomic.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very cool. So people just kind of start finding out about
Yeah.
you, and and you've been able to stay completely booked that way.
Well, we both have side jobs. Like
Okay.
like I do architecture on my own. Megan does graphic design, and then we share projects. So
Oh, so you
kinda-
guys are both running in parallel.
Oh, yeah.
So that's gonna be challenging. Okay, let's talk about that because they're
let's not talk about
yeah. See, now we're getting to the grit, the interesting part, because sometimes, if experience is any, based on what I've seen, there's competing deadlines, there's competing priorities. How do you guys negotiate that?
I mean, I think that we are very keen on just the way that the needs of the client, I guess you could say, and prioritizing, getting stuff done, executing. And so I think it's just a matter of allowing each other to kind of understand where we are in our own lives, and then balancing the client's needs with that, and then also communicating to the client where we are as a business, and just making sure to be transparent with everyone in the situation.
So you basically have this shared company, and then you also have what you could call your own separate freelance gigs on the side. Right? What percentage of your time are you dedicating to the shared company versus the freelance gigs?
It's really hard to say. It's changed so much over the past few years.
Yeah.
Right now, probably 30% is dedicated to this, but we're at the like home stretch of a deadline, so it intensifies as the deadline approaches. But toward the beginning of the project, you have a little bit more time to not focus so directly on the start. So yeah, I mean, it depends on where we are with a project, and how many projects we have at the same time.
So how are you thinking about this in terms of how you want to continue to develop? Because there are choices to be made, right? With this, and based on your faces, I can see that this is something that is an in-process thing that you guys are, But let's talk about that, because that's a real thing, right? So that's something that a lot of people grapple with. It's like you have a venture with somebody, you're doing something else, things come up on both ends, right? A big project comes up that demands people's attention. A big outside gig comes up that is maybe for one of you a distraction for a period of time. How do you plan to continue? What's your plan for this?
I think ideally both of us would like for Double Barrel to be our main gig.
Okay.
And use our side work to supplement that when times are slow.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's easier to probably pick up residential projects to do, or something that I wouldn't be needing a graphic designer for. But I think both of us prefer working together than working alone.
Yeah, for sure. I think our goal right now would be to pick up something like a boutique hotel, or some sort of like boutique kind of shop, or a small gym, or something where where we could handle a project from complete start to beginning, that's at a scale that would both keep us busy for a long period of time, and then continue to move into that space, even more like into the restaurant space. That's definitely an area that we're both super interested in. So moving throughout like a smaller scale, architecturally speaking project, but larger graphic design project, I think that would be the sweet spot for both of us.
Yeah. So you want to do more together?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So, and then that sort of intersects with what you're saying, where a lot of customers are coming to you through referrals. How have you thought about how you can harness those referrals and also do other strategies to acquire more customers, such that there's enough demand for you guys to be able to go like more full on?
I have no idea.
No,
I don't know.
But that's a totally legitimate answer, right? I mean, let's talk about that. How have you guys thought about how? I mean, are you guys pitching like actively and like looking for? And you do any advertising, anything like that, or is it?
Not so much. And honestly, like I think until earlier this summer, like I was at another architecture firm.
Yeah.
And
I still have a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where I was like making wedding cakes on the side. Like we both just have had
remodeling a house.
Yeah.
Like
So I think really within the last couple of months is the first time we've been at the point where like
We can.
Hey,
do
we
this.
need to start.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we'll do a podcast a year from now or 2 years from now. This is really special because this is an inflection point where. So I was telling you guys, I'm writing a book, right? And one of the things I've learned around the country is a lot of people want to do their own thing, their own business, and there's this fear and this very real preoccupation with well, how am I going to make money in the meanwhile?
Absolutely.
And how do I kind of balance this desire to go out and do my own thing with I guess a little bit of giving it, the bounds of sanity to be able to make sure that your life stays on the rails. Right?
Yep.
And one of the,
And our husbands don't kill us.
is that a fair assessment? Right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
something I've seen a
Absolutely.
lot, and something
Yeah.
I had to do too when I started my company. But one of the analogy that I came up with is you pace the train, and then you burn the ships. So it's like if you're trying to catch a train, like the people who basically ride trains for free. This is illegal. Small business war stories, and no way endorses this. But you have to run fast enough to match the speed of the train before you get on. And then once you're on the train, you just burn the ships and be full on dedicated,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of mixing transportation analogies. It just I can't.
What are you, a pirate?
Something like that. So you guys seem to be at this really cool, interesting, also highly uncertain, scary place of inflection of you want to do more of this, and you want to. So how does that feel?
Exhilarating. Yeah, it does. I mean, I think it's the point where you're about to take off on a sprint, but you can't yet run that fast yet. So you're kind of just jogging along and you're ready to run.
Yeah.
I feel like we're ready to run. We've spent about 3 years moving pretty slowly through projects as they've come along, and honestly, Chelsea just got her stamp, so she's certified to do architectural drawings.
What does that mean?
Tell me
I'm licensed as an architect in Texas, so I don't need to work at a firm anymore. We're our own thing, you know.
Okay.
I feel like that was just a long time coming. I kind of been putting it off. And
What's the process to do that?
There's a certain number of hours that you have to get, different categories of experience working under another architect, and then there are 7 exams that you just have to pass.
It's pretty rigorous, the process.
It's just a pain.
A lot of testing and studying.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now you finally. When did this happen that you got this?
Earlier this summer.
Okay, so this.
Yeah.
So we are this. Very
Congratulations.
special- Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I got to use my stamp for the first time today.
You did.
I did.
What did you do with it?
I submitted a project for a
She
for a permit.
stamped drawings.
Yeah. What did I stamped something.
yeah.
She stamped her.
No, I'm,
Do you want a stamp?
Yeah,
She has it.
exactly. She has
we
it.
get it out.
Stamp Muddy Waggers.
next time, a year
yeah.
from now.
Yeah. No. I mean, what was the project? It's whatever.
Yeah, it's
whatever.
a residential project
Okay.
for a couple that actually used to go to Atomic.
Okay.
That's how I met them.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool.
It's our bread and butter.
Yeah. We just get. That's why we get
That's
there.
why you go
Yeah,
get the guns.
Get clients.
Yeah.
So, okay, so right now you're at this point where you both want to put more, and there's a certain amount of uncertainty. Does that sound?
Not much is certain.
Yeah, there is a degree of uncertainty, and you are looking to go out and do more. So you're pushing more. Are you pushing more on social media? How are you looking to? Because
Yeah, a
Austin,
little
you're
bit.
in a really cool place here with Austin because you also get 300 people moving here every day, right? Net. So and the city's growing so much, and there's a broader conversation about whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever it looks like. But there's a lot of opportunity too. How are you guys thinking about how you're gonna go after that?
Well, I think pretty recently we've been a little bit more mindful about the fact that people need to know we exist.
Yeah.
And I think that really in itself has already pulled in some clients. I think we've been trying to make ourselves do the social media thing and post things and finally get a website up and stuff like that. And I
Appear
think
on
that's been
podcasts.
good. Yeah. Next step. But really beyond that, I don't know.
I
We
think
haven't-
it's something that we've sort of talked about, but that we continually are trying to push for is just to continue to stay relevant in the conversation, continue to network, talk about what we do so that people aren't just in the dark about it. So just staying in tune with like the creative network in Austin, staying in tune with new businesses that are popping up, because it's definitely a market that we want to serve. So yeah, just like staying, like doing our homework, staying in tune with what's going on with businesses, and just continuing to network with the creative world, because that can be a huge resource. You know, if people see what we do and they don't exactly have that kind of skill set, they can pass those on to us and vice versa. So trying to stay real fluid with that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Can you think of a time when things went really wrong in the business? What did you do about it?
I wouldn't say that we have had actually a time where things went really wrong, but we're really bad about creating situations for ourselves that we really don't need to have.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like,
as in we take on way more than what is pretty much humanly possible for a lot of people. Like trying to lift a 10-foot bar that we hand built out of construction material into a U-Haul trailer that weighs like 350 pounds.
Yeah.
So like stuff like that.
Done.
That's like
there's this, I don't know if, like, there's this project that we're working on for a company that was going to an expo. They needed a booth design, and a lot of those people come in with like PVC frames with like curtain drapes on them, and we basically designed a little set. And
it was a 10 by 20 booth, and it had 8-foot walls that spanned 20 feet that we connected together with bolts. So he hand built basically a house that could go in a. Wow. It was like when if you're ever an overachiever in school and you walk in with your school project and it's like,
and everyone else has
bigger.
Like a shoebox, but you somehow are like rolling something in on a wagon, and it's like, what?
It's embarrassing because you went so far beyond scope of what the project was, and like everyone's looking at you. Like, that's how it felt with this project, because it was just insane.
Oh man, yeah, we were like wheeling this into this convention center on a big cart, or a bunch of big carts, and people were like looking at us like, what do you do?
Like are they rolling in the stage?
Yeah.
Or like, what is
Yeah. So we were like at my house building this thing and had to load it up in a truck, and we could not lift it up. We found one dolly from my neighbor and put it under one end. Megan was like inside the bar lifting it up,
like squatting it.
Okay.
like walking underneath of it and squatting.
And then I remember
you're
that
really strong, but 350 pounds might be like beyond it.
And stretched out over a 10-foot span. That's just.
And it was super top and front heavy, so it was like wobbly.
Well, and then I remembered I had another dolly because we'd moved into our house and put our refrigerator was on a dolly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's a dolly under the fridge. Let's go inside and see if we can get it.
We totally tried to lift the refrigerator to get the dolly out.
And we pick it up, and then we're like, neither of us can actually move to get the dolly.
So the refrigerator's off the ground.
Yeah, we're like holding the fridge like an inch off the dolly, and I'm like, I can't get on one foot to kick the dolly out.
Wow. But everything turned out okay.
Yeah, we got it in there.
Actually, my husband Brandon showed up and helped.
Well,
I mean, we got it in the truck. We did get it in the truck. He met us there.
Up a ramp.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah,
Stuff
he
like
showed
that.
up and helped us out. So.
Yeah.
But that definitely was
That was
a stretch.
Yeah.
We stretched it a little
Wow.
bit there.
Yeah, maybe the next time we can get more, go to Atomic and
Yeah,
get more people.
get some
help
Well,
out.
the whole premise of that project was it was super low budget, so we didn't have a ton. We couldn't print stuff out because they didn't have budget. We had to buy construction material instead of like finished material, which is a lot lighter and smaller. Because we wanted to, do something really awesome and nice for the client, right? Like we wanted to continue to iterate and elaborate on this awesome brand that they had and this awesome product that they have, even though they didn't have, this extreme budget for this booth. And so we basically went bottom of the barrel with material and spent a lot of time developing and constructing this whole set, I guess you could say. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's the craziest project that you guys have undertaken? Like, other than this one sounds pretty crazy, but is there another one that you kind of got and you're like, whoa, this is nuts?
I mean, it seems like as we have been in business, we keep getting like bigger and more exciting projects, you know? And I think every time we get something, we're like, oh, is this really happening?
That's
Are we
awesome.
really getting this? So it's
That's
really
a good
exciting.
feeling, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you got the double bear. I'm really excited to do a podcast with you guys a year from now. I think you guys do great work, and I've seen obviously from the one that the stuff you did at Atomic, and the projects on your website. So I'm certain that you guys want to dedicate yourself to this. You'll get it, and I'm really excited to hear about all the crazy projects that you're gonna have done 2 years from now.
Thanks.
No, that's awesome. In this time that you've been working together, a lot of people who listen to the podcast are either thinking about starting a business or maybe already running a business and some either in some advanced or early stage of it. What is the number one piece of advice, the number one thing you can think of that you can share with other people?
I think persistence is something that we've heard and that we are continuing to learn. Just being patient and persistent with your process and with your development, with the way you're communicating with clients, with just making the business work. I think anytime you let up, that's when you fail. Mm-hmm. You have to continue to propel yourself forward and stay motivated to keep doing the next right thing. Like even if it's something small every single day, just continually try to propel yourself forward and being persistent in that. So, and
sometimes that's hard, right?
Yeah,
I mean, for me,
totally.
like personally, I've been dealing with some of that where like sometimes you get, maybe some things go wrong in your business, and that there are very simple things you can do every day to help you out. Mm-hmm. But then you're like, oh, but this one bad thing happened, and you kind of it takes it's good to know that you're not alone, right? Like that misery loves company, and like people who start businesses, we're all deal with this.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Where can people find you? So what are your Instagram handles and your website and such like that if people are interested to learn more about your work?
Yeah, our website is www.dbdatx.com.
Okay.
And our Instagram is Double Barrel Design.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for spending the time today with us in Small Business War Stories. And I really, really wish you the best and look forward to having a follow-up episode. I can't speak. A follow-up episode in the future.
Us too.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.